So we're carrying the cross, crown of thorns on our head, as we come to station number 3. Now, this station is not mentioned in the Bible, but it is only common sense. Imagining the brutality of the whipping, many men died during the lashing with the flagellum. But the Romans were good at making sure they didn't actually kill a man because they wanted him to suffer the ultimate agony and humiliation and degradation of the cross. That's how they scared everybody else to ever saying, do you ever want this to happen to you? Then don't defy the laws of Rome. And so they're on their way now. Jesus is carrying what's called the patibulum. It's the cross piece. Now, sometimes we see pictures of him carrying the whole cross, and sometimes only the bar across the top. In ancient times, often they would have where executions took place regularly, they'd have the upright already stabilized in the ground, and then they would have the patibulum, his arms on the patibulum, nail him to that, and then hoist that up and attach it at the top. That way they didn't have to bring the whole cross every time. It was much simpler just to raise that up, attach it. When it's done, pull that down, get him off that piece, and bring the next one and put it up again. The patibulum is, as I said earlier, probably weighed 110 pounds. Imagine Jesus, I would assume, had his arms lashed to that, and he was carrying that with his arms bound to it. No, whether that was that or he was carrying it like this, we don't know. But the fact is that it's a heavy weight for a man who is in total shock. His body has already lost an amazing amount of blood. His skin is like hamburger. He's been ripped to shreds with the whips. He's been deprived of sleep all night, and he's now carrying this 110-pound piece of lumber, and it wasn't planed nicely like a 2x4 that we buy now at the hardware stores. This was rough lumber, chopped roughly, splinters and big hunks of wood coming out of it, and to carry that, scraping and running on his back. There's actually a devotion for the 6th wound of Christ, which is the chafing of the cross as he carried it on his back. So you can imagine the wounds already on his backs and his shoulders, and now carrying this piece of wood, chafing and heavy and burdensome. And it says that Jesus falls the first time. Even today, as you walk through the old city of Jerusalem, the pavement's made of Jerusalem limestone. It's all polished from people walking on it so much. It's kind of a yellowish orange color. And the streets back then were the same. There's even a mention in John's gospel of the pavement that was there. And imagine when you fall. Just imagine right now you're walking and you trip and fall. What are you first going to do? Your hands are going to reach out to steady yourself. Your face is protected. You do anything you can to protect your face and your head, no matter how it is. I fell down the other day on the ice up here, and I remember curling up and falling to protect my head and my face before I hit the driveway. Well, if you have your hands like this with 110 pounds on your back, what happens when you trip and fall, especially if you're in shock and you've lost a lot of blood and you're disoriented and dizzy? What happens? What's the first thing to hit the pavement? Boom! It's your face. And not only does your face hit the pavement, but it's pounded into the pavement with a 110-pound beam of wood that slams your face. In the Shroud of Turin, there is they said that you can see the nose of Jesus pushed over. Well, that would certainly make sense, because if he's falling on his face, it's certainly going to flatten your nose. That's the first thing that's going to hit the ground. Imagine that. It's like, don't even want to think about it. But this is what Jesus suffered when he fell the first time. Broken nose on the pavement. People say, well, he didn't have any bones broken. Well, this is cartilage here. I don't know that this is a bone broken or that's a big deal. But his face is just smashed against the pavement as he falls. And this is very reasonable to believe it happened not just once, but over and over again. The soldiers, seeing that it's unlikely he's going to make it all the way, they start looking for a man to carry his cross, to help him. Now, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, they tell us the story of the man coming along to carry the cross. We'll get into that in a minute. But the Gospel of John doesn't tell us that. It just tells us that Jesus carried his cross. And I think because John is trying to emphasize the fact that Jesus is the one carrying the wood of the cross up to Calvary, like Isaac did, so that he could suffer that death and fulfill, in a sense, that beautiful typology of Abraham and Isaac. So here we are at station number 3, the heavy patibulum, carrying it and imagining tripping and falling as you're going on these uneven roads. And it could have been slippery, by the way, because I have been on the Via Dolorosa in March, right near Easter, when it snowed. And it snowed 2 or 3 inches in Jerusalem. And we were walking along this path, and it was treacherously slippery when you have the Jerusalem limestone gets wet and it's polished from all the feet. It's very slippery. And we were slushing through 2 or 3 inches of snow. It's not impossible that Jesus was even being crucified during a storm like that, or a snowstorm, because it happens at the end of winter in Jerusalem. So we end the third station. Jesus falls for the first time.